Wow, slight change of scenery today. I actually haven't had the chance to ride very much for the past few seasons because I've been trying to teach Kelly how to ride, but she's taking a break at the lodge and I'm using the opportunity to remind myself where my obsession with speed all started.
And I was hoping that getting a refresher on snowboarding would be helpful with learning how to ride an electric skateboard. It could work. Well, it didn't work out, but we can't let one little crash stop us. So I am determined to learn how to ride an e-board, and thanks to Tom from Boosted, I get to practice on this bad boy. Will I have nerve enough to do a full send? And it is time for another New York City Esk8 Collective Group Ride. Roll the intro! As always, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and stay till the end for a preview of next episode. Now I'm gonna skip my typical 30-second intro since in many ways this is a board that needs no introduction. It is the gold standard when it comes to electric skateboarding, which every single other e-board is measured against when it comes to speed, range, ride comfort, quality, and all of that stuff. And as much as I think that the electric unicycle had increased its following over the past year, I have a little doubt that the boosted board is still likely to be one of the most popular personal electric vehicle around, at least here in the US.
I think the first thing you need to know about hip-hop, it's all about your posture. And hip-hop is this.
And there's a lot of good reason for it. At least here in New York City, even though a lot of the more hardcore electric riders have upgraded beyond their boosted board, surprisingly I have heard very few complain against this board, with the range and the size of its battery pack being the sole exception. As a matter of fact, for the most part, most of the riders here still have their own boosted board proudly displayed on their wall, since it is the OG wheel that got everyone into the hobby in the first place. There is, however, a silver lining to that smaller battery capacity in that the base 99 watt-hour boosted board is actually one of the few personal electric vehicle that has an easier time with getting on a flight, since that smaller battery capacity is actually below the maximum limit imposed by FAA. And this is the one persistent complaint with most of the other micro electric transport, since one of the reasons that we love them is their ability to allow us to access a lot more places than we could otherwise. And there's no better chance to do that than when you're traveling to a new city or even a new country. The other plus to this board are the solid support that Boosted have provided behind all their products. This is huge, as the one consistency I've heard from electric skateboard riders are their consistent need for maintenance. Belt breaks, motor fries, and a lot of other things wear out, unsurprising really given the amount of abuse an average skateboard have to endure. And I've been lurking both on the Boosted subreddit and the local chat and have yet to hear of a single instances where problems weren't taken care of. Yes, it is more expensive than a lot of other similarly specified electric skateboard on the market. However, if you want a high quality, well-built, and solidly designed electric skateboard that also have one of the best warranty support in the market, so that you could just ride and not having to worry about performing your own repairs or even sourcing parts, then the Boosted Stealth should probably be on your short list. hard is it to learn to ride a boosted board? And the answer is not hard at all. If you count riding as just standing on the board, stiff leg and going at a snail's pace like I'm doing right now, it is a whole lot easier to get on it and go than either an electric unicycle or even the one wheel I tried last episode. It does take getting some used to with using a remote hand throttle instead of just leaning to control speed. Also, since both acceleration and braking/reverse are all mapped on a single thumb wheel, once you come to a stop, continuing pulling the wheel back would actually move you backward rather than locking the wheel, which may throw you for a loop. Now, although I flirted with the idea of longboarding and even bought a Trempa mountain board when I was attempting to learn kiteboarding, a whole nother story I'll leave for another time, I never skateboarded. So the first thing I had to do is just getting used to the sensation of being on a proper longboard, and hopefully in time I can learn how to properly balance or even carve on this thing. And of course I started in mode 1, just going around my own block, and of course under the cover of darkness, so I can hide my shame of being a complete noob at this. The board felt twitchy and the truck a bit loose, but I at least had enough experience to know that's probably from my lack of experience and inability to grip the board and weight shift properly. After the second and third night, I start to slowly go further out and move up to the faster mode. The other thing I need to learn is how to switch my stance, since I have never ridden a board that didn't have a binding before, so I never had any experience moving my feet. I'm more used to just twisting and pulling on the board through the binding to get it to do what I want it to do. And I do suspect that a bit more finesse would be required for the longboard riding style, likely more appropriate for the boosted board. A wider stance with my feet closer to the trucks gave better control, but was way more jarring whenever I hit a rough patch. Standing closer to the middle over the flexi portion of the deck felt way cushier, but I do get a bit nervous whenever my stance isn't wide and low on anything quick. I guess you were supposed to be able to move your feet back and forth, but I'm nowhere close to being comfortable enough for that. So after a week, I was able to get a better feel for the board, and I was also able to start carving and controlling it somewhat more predictably. Also tried practice bailing off the board, since I figure it'll be something I'll need to do eventually. At which point I think it's time for us to head back to the street and practice in condition that the boosted stealth is actually designed for. One of the best things about riding an electric skateboard or a unicycle is the sense of freedom. The ability to experience your environment in a totally different way. And it goes beyond the simple convenience of being able to get around quickly unimpeded by vehicular traffic. Their general compactness also means that they never pull you away from the experience of traveling and being in different places. The enclosure of a car or any sort of public transport for that matter disconnect you from your environment and renders the act of travel abstract. I mean, you have a rough approximate idea of wherever many miles you may be from where you started, and you have heartily watched the scenery roll by behind the panes of safety glass, but experientially it's really not much more than what you would get out of a ride on an elevator. You get into a small box, and by the time you got out, you're now on a different floor, and all that transpire is just a sinking feeling and a bunch of blank looking faces. The electric rideable, on the other hand, kept you firmly anchored to your environment with nothing but the cocoon of speed between you and the random pedestrian on the sidewalk. It is the perfect thing for people like me who are endlessly fascinated with the ever-changing face of a city like New York. And yes, occasionally it also tries to kill you dead. Riding the street is the true test of anyone's e-boarding skill, since there is little room for errors and issues that may not seem significant elsewhere becomes huge. Since I ride with a goofy stance, as in I ride with my right foot forward, when the bike lane is on the left-hand side of the street, which is often the case, I have to ride with my back to the cars. And since I live in the party central portion of downtown New York City, I have enough evidence to suggest I should have very little faith in the situation awareness of the average drivers operating the death machine all around me. But hey, that keeps things interesting. So one of the comments from my last episode had asked how I managed to actually get rid of everybody on the sidewalk from New York City. And there's parts of New York, like the residential area downtown towards the riverfront, where there's less people, and it helps when you're out and about on a Sunday morning when everyone else is trying to sleep off their drunken festivity from the night before. After 2 weeks, I do feel a bit more comfortable with ride control. It'll probably take me 100 if not thousands more miles to truly get comfortable riding in live traffic the same way that these crazy dudes on the New York City Esk8 crew does. Speaking of which, it's time for another New York City Esk8 Collective Group Rides.
Every time me drop the gal them turn a drum. Drop the gal them tell them turn a drum. Every time me drop the gal them turn a drum. Gal them turn a drum. And she have to make it now. And she have to make it now. Gal them turn a drum. Gal them tell them drop the gal them tell them drum. Every time me drop the gal them turn a drum crowd. Gal them turn a drum crowd. And she have to make it now. And she have to make it now. Rock it up then she bring it out. Rock it up then she bring it out. Rock it up then she bring it out. Make it now, make it now. Rock it up, then she bring it around. Rock it up, then she bring it around. Rock it up, then she bring it around. Rock it up, rock it up, rock it up, top, top, rock it up. Rock it up, rock it up, top, top. Rock it up, rock it up, rock it up, top, top. Rock it up, tell them top, rock it up, top, top. Rock it up, drum crowd, rock it up. Rock it up, rock it up. Rock it up, rock it up, top, top. Rock it up, rock it up, rock it up. Tell them turn a drum. Rock it down, turn a drum. Turn a drum, that we make it now. Rock it up, then she bring it out. Rock it up, then she bring it out. Rock it up, then she bring it out. Urbina, that we make it now, make it now. Rock it up, then she bring it out. Rock it up, then she bring it out. Rock it up, then she bring it out. Hot thing she a run game in the town. Time me drop the gal them turn a drum, gal them turn a drum. John, drop the gal them, tell them turn a drum. Time me drop the gal them, turn a drum, the gal them turn a drum, turn a drum. Urbina, John, drop the gal them, turn a drum, gal them tell them John.
Oh, will you look at the time? I somehow managed to trick you into wasting another 10 minutes of your life watching my silly videos. And if you're new to my channel, I mostly talk about electric unicycle and other electric rideable. And if you're interested in getting on the action and enjoy what you just watched, please like and subscribe to my channel. Until the next video, thank you. Next week, we're taking the show on the road, and I don't really know what to expect except that it probably have a big battery in it.